action.
What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour. We are here today because it's Demon Slayer Sunday, folks. We are finally back round. It's been a year and some change since we had our last season, the Swordsmith Village, and now we're in the Hashira training arc. So, a great time to be a Demon Slayer fan. We've gotten to do Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen in the meantime, but we're here, back to our roots, and we are super excited. We've all got a little buddy with us today. I've got Tony Shopper, and I'll let my friends tell them who you got.
Well, I'll go next. I have Cubone because we all need to deal with our trauma in different ways. And he copes and is adorable and is here to get us through, fortunately not a very trauma-ridden episode of Demon Slayer. This one was mostly light and fluffy, which we love because it won't last. So,
don't remind me. And I have the boy, the star of our show and the show in general, Tanjiro. Yay! With his rosy cheeks. Also, yes, I dressed up for Demon Slayer Sundays. Definitely not for Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to Hannah specifically because she has brought her son.
I have brought my son. Happy Mother's Day to me. I have mothered him very well. Anyway.
You're like, anyway.
Just yeets Cubone.
Oh, poor buddy.
He's alright.
He was wearing a helmet.
I would never do that to him.
Well. Alright.
He has like 6 broken bones right now.
I
okay?
know, at all
He's trying
times,
hard.
honestly. He is constantly injured.
Oof.
Life of the main character.
That's just getting old, I think.
Okay, he's 15. He's not there yet.
Well, in Tanjiro years, he's like 87.
Aww.
So.
Damn. Alright, but in all seriousness, if you're a caregiver out there, happy Mother's Day to you. Really hope that everyone has a great day out there. I know that's going to be belated because we're not posting this on Mother's Day, but hey, still, in sentiment, right? Now, we have already covered this episode once, so this is going to be more of a quicker recap of this episode than it will be an in-depth review, and you can go back into our playlist and find that a couple months back when the movie first came out, showing both the last episode of Swordsmith Village and this new episode of the Hashira Training Arc. But starting off, there were a couple things that we wanted to touch on that we missed last time. Yeah. So the first thing that we wanted to touch on was actually something that Emily, we thought we should have brought up, which was Rengoku's sword hilt.
Yeah, Emily, what are you doing over there?
Repressing my memories. That's what I'm doing, but I mean, what a sweet moment. What a beautiful change in the score for a brief moment to call back to my favorite character, Mr. Rengoku, and knowing that Tanjiro's like literally going to carry on the legacy through this sword is just a really, really sweet moment that we should have brought up for sure.
Yeah, and I admit, like, obviously I just rewatched the show because I'll take any excuse to rewatch Demon Slayer. I think that was actually my second watch through of the year. However, I have watched 5 new animes, and I'm on my 6th one right now this year.
It's Mashal, right? The 6th?
Mashal was 5. I'm on Bungo Stray Dogs now. About halfway through it already.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm doing great. And I just wanted to throw that out there so that people know that I do watch other animes. Since so many people are like, you love Demon Slayer? Do you watch other animes? Anyway, we can cut that out.
Oh no, we're not cutting that.
We're not cutting that out. That's me throwing shade 100%. Anyway, rewatching everything, so soon to seeing this episode and just being reminded of Senjuro giving him the hilt and then him having it in Swordsmith Village and it protecting Kotetsu, and then seeing him kind of be he thanked it for protecting Kotetsu, but at the same time Rengoku's little jingle came on. It was just it's such a short moment, but it carries so much weight because he's gonna be having that sword for who knows how long. He does like to break swords, so who knows, but just to see it there was really beautiful.
Yeah, that was really cool. You both mentioned the score, but I think Rengoku's score out of everyone for me, I think is the most beautiful next to Misori's. I think his score has so much oomph behind it. I've seen a lot of YouTubers do analysis of anime scores, and something I've learned is the rising action or the crescendo of a score really creates that sentiment of strength and determination, which I think is something that Rengoku not only demonstrated, but now passed on to Tanjiro, which Emily kind of brought up too, that he's like carrying on this legacy through the sword, and how long is he going to have the sword? We don't know, but we know that whatever sword he is wielding, he's going to carry on Rengoku's memories, which is super cool.
Yeah. Speaking of scores, I thought about this as we were watching it. Speaking of scores, we were introduced to Sanemi and Open Eyes in this episode. And if you notice, Sanemi's is actually very closely resembling a different score. And do you know whose that is? Genya's. Yeah, I compared the two, and it's actually almost the same motif. Sanemi's is just faster and has a few different notes here and there, but it has like a very similar like rise and fall. And I just like got a little emotional when I noticed that, because it took me a while to figure it out. And you know, they're brothers. Granted, their relationship is obviously very, very complicated, but I think just the score, and the score carries a lot in these stories. You know, it really sets the tone for the emotions of a lot of the scenes that are happening in all media, not just anime, but movies and TV shows are all the same way. To see them like have a connected score, like there is a connection between the two of them. We just haven't seen it in the anime yet.
Demon Slayer does a really beautiful job with scores too. I love the use of like the traditional instruments that are rooted probably in the time period in which this is taking place. I always thought that was really cool, and I really love the vocal motifs in a lot of the scores that were in today's episode, because it's not in every part, but when it's used, it's like very beautiful but kind of eerie, which I think works really well, especially for the scenes that they're placed in.
Agreed.
Some really good overall OSTs across the board. And moving into some more opening and soundtracks, we really didn't talk about the opening last time that we talked about it, so go ahead and pick out your favorite moments from it. What did you guys think about the song? I thought I had some good things. I think that there were some very large cliffhangers, per usual in every anime. That's the one thing that I would say I would change about anime if I could, going up on my pedestal for a moment. We don't need to give away the entire season in an opening, okay? Please. Just like maybe some like random fight scenes. Like there are sometimes like, okay, cool. Like give me like a little bit of a taste, like a oomph, not the entire spiel. If I can find out what's going to happen from the opening, I don't need to watch the season.
To be fair, I feel like the flip side of that argument is like, why are they flying through the sky? We love them. Yes. But they do all do that.
Every single one of them. So as far as like my favorite moments from the new OP, I would say there's definitely a couple. I think the OP itself, the music, is much softer. I think the OPs in Demon Slayer just in general have very much, they started out very like, you know, like you have Gorenge, which is just very exciting and big and just like a bop, right? And I think as the show's progressed, as it gets more serious and emotional, the OPs have kind of taken that, you know, like theme of just becoming maybe a little more softer as it progresses, a little more emotional. And I think this one is definitely by far the most like calm of all of them. And I know that I can't think of it off the top of my head. Obviously, it's in a different language, but I'm fairly certain the words in the song have like carry a lot of meaning, which was the same for last year with Swords in the Village. It was Kizuna no Kiseki, which is the miracle of bonds, which was like the whole arc was really about those bonds. So really enjoyed that. As far as the visuals go, I think that's the strong point of the OP. Like the visuals in it are spectacular, but I would have to say, to say something not spoilery, my favorite part of the OP is during the chorus when it shows each one of the Hashira do like their slashes to the beat of the music. As a singer, it is so satisfying to watch the visuals like match up with the tempo of the song, and it just like, it's so satisfying. And I enjoy it, along with all the breathing techniques, seeing them firsthand.
Just noticing, I think Hannah got her nails done Tanjiro style for Demon Slayer Sundays.
I went a little more subtle than last year, but they are green and black for my boy.
We love to see it.
Called it.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of the OP was actually Muzan. Like all the transitions of like all the disguises, and almost like the way he's able to disappear into thin air because he's able to transition so much, compared with Ubayashiki, who we actually don't see his face, I don't believe, at least not in the moment that Muzan is being shown. And like the inequality that is in this fight for the two of them, and yet they're standing on equal levels.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really interesting, and also found it interesting that they featured the snake, because in theory that's something we would only so far associate with Obanai.
Yeah.
But was very clearly and prominently shown in the scene with the two of them. So some interesting imagery happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's the snake devil.
Oh no.
Not again.
Not again.
Okay, honestly, the snake had me confused when I'm a manga reader, so...
We'll talk about that.
I must not remember something. Moving on, though.
What's your favorite moment? You didn't answer.
Oh, you're right. I didn't answer my favorite moment. I think I'm going to say my favorite moment is actually Tanjiro running a lot. And I think that that's kind of a basic answer, but it's like really good that like the way they pan through like kind of the training arc a little bit. I think it's nice to get like little bits of each little piece, because you can kind of like infer that he's going through the different like phases of the training arc at that point. So it's really nice to see as like he's going through this, like you can kind of tell he's getting a little bit stronger. You can kind of like infer from this scene that like this is a time where he's really going to grow and shine eventually, because as they talk about in the episode, right, the final battle is coming, so we know that something big is going to happen, and we have to figure out kind of what's going to happen from there, but you can tell that it's Tanjiro's time to shine.
So, episode count. So this one has been an interesting topic of conversation, because for those of you who don't know, and I know we brought this up on the podcast before, but this arc is incredibly short manga chapter-wise compared to the other arcs that we've had, and was not, like, most of us weren't expecting it to get its own standalone season because of that. But, of course, it seems that it is. Today, with the release of the new episode, we got an unofficial, official episode count, and I say that because it's not Ufotable and Aniplex just straight up saying, oh, we're getting this many episodes. This is the way they always do it, is they tell us when the Blu-ray is coming out, and it's always the Wednesday following the season finale. The Blu-ray is coming out July 3rd, so that means that the season finale will be June 30th, which is 8 episodes. So, still shorter than, like, Swordsmith Village and Entertainment District, but oddly enough, this arc, I believe, is around 5 chapters shorter than Mugen Train, and obviously Mugen Train got a movie. However, it did get its episodic release, and with an episode that was completely anime original content, it was 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we feel about the fact that an arc that's shorter than that getting 1 extra episode, with the first one also being double length, which was not the case for Mugen Train either? What do we think that means? What are we getting here?
I think we're going to get some anime original content. I mean, we already did.
Yeah.
There already was some in this episode, but I personally think that Demon Slayer actually really, really benefits from these moments, because as much as I love the manga, there are some parts that probably could have been elaborated on, and mangakas are rushed to get chapters out, and I love it, but it's really nice to get the filler, if you will, in this show, because I feel like all of it is very intentional and flows seamlessly. It doesn't feel like you're watching filler, it just feels like you're getting a more well-rounded version of these characters that we already know and love. So the episode that was in the Mugen Train arc, I absolutely love. I'll take any extra time I can get with Rengoku, and it didn't feel like out of place. If anything, I felt that it embellished the story, and the scene that we got at the beginning of this new episode, I felt exactly the same way. It's probably my favorite scene in the whole episode.
Yeah.
And I think it really benefits from that. So I hope that there will be some anime original content, because it feels like Gotoge might have a hand in what's happening because of how intentional and well placed everything feels. So that's my guess.
I personally think that this is probably what's best for this season, and I kind of related this to Attack on Titan season 3 before, like, camera rolling, but, and I'll say it again, like, season 3 of Attack on Titan had a lot of story development. Like, it wasn't like full-blown pace. Like, it slowed down a little bit, and I think that's what we need, because they've discussed this is going to be the final battle coming up soon, so we know this show is going to end. So, like, let's take our time. Let's savor the flavor of this show for a little bit. I know, I just said savor the flavor. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a really interesting season. I think anime original content, love that we already got some, but I hope that we get some more of the backstory, because there's a lot of characters we don't know their backstory. Like, we're still looking for Inosuke. We're still looking for Zenitsu. We kind of got some backstory on. He got, like, thrown out of a house from when he was chasing some girl, and then, like, Jigoro was kind of like beating on him a little bit because he's like, stop being such a little wimp. But like that's the most we got here. So we're looking for a lot of new character backstory. And even in the opening, right, we saw Sanemi and Genya kind of like paralleled in the hallway. We've got a little bit of their backstory in Sourcemouth Village when it was, I think it was like episode 6 or something.
On Mother's Day last year.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very rude of them.
On Mother's Day last year, yeah. So hopefully we get some more of that as well, because there's definitely, I know, more to be shown. So there's a lot of backstory I'm hoping to see, because that's what's going to make that final battle so much more intense, is when these characters have these really progressive and powerful stories behind them.
So I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. First is that there is a lot of considered canon content that Ufotable could just adapt from the light novels. There's a whole book that pretty much every chapter in it takes place during this that I would love to see. I don't know if Ufotable is going to do that. I think they're more likely to just do original content that they created on their own with, I believe, Gotoge is definitely, like, they have their hands in the anime quite a lot, because they're not writing another manga right now either, so I think they're heavily influencing how Ufotable is deciding to take this story with the manga, which is why all of the anime original content we've gotten so far has worked so well. Mm-hmm. That being said, I think, and this is me, who is obviously a huge Demon Slayer fan, my biggest gripe with the story is that from here on out, it does get quite rushed. And there's a lot of different reasons behind that. Gotoge did have, like, family issues or something. Like, I don't think necessarily it really, really felt rushed till the very last arc. However, there is still a lot going on over the next rest of the story that does feel a little bit. So I would just love to see some more just moments, these characters getting to just actually be with each other and get to know each other super well without them getting to know each other via, you saved my life from that demon, thank you, Also, and it's clear that this is what they're gonna do. It's clear they're gonna add anime original content, because in this first episode itself, the first 15 minutes of it, the fight with Obanai and Sanmi, we already talked about, was anime original. The Shinobu and Kanao moment right after that is also anime original, and there was just so many moments sprinkled within. So for reference, Ufotable's normal tempo for one 25-minute episode, is around 3 chapters of the manga. Now this does fluctuate, of course, but that episode was 49 minutes long, and it covered a slightly less than 3 chapters. So, and they also skipped around. They skipped, so they did chapter 128 faithfully with some added stuff, chapter 129 faithfully with some added stuff, half of chapter 130 with some added stuff. They skipped over the second half of chapter 130, which is not a sign that they're skipping over that. Believe me, that we're getting it, don't worry. And then they skipped all the way the last 3 pages of 131. So that's how they adapted that. So it's clear they're pacing it really slowly, which I think is good for this arc. I think we're gonna really enjoy this time with our characters. For the first time, we are not gonna be fighting to the death with demons in this. That was very, very long. I apologize for taking over. I just had to get it out.
You're good.
That's fair.
This is a podcast.
We love to yap here on the Hashira Half Hour.
And it's time for Demon Slayer. I'm very happy.
It is. It's time. E.T.'s time.
It is time. Oh, wait.
So, this is a part where if you are not a manga reader, we do suggest that you possibly skip this last part of the episode, as we will be talking about foreshadowing into the final arcs of the show. So we're going to talk about how the opening foreshadowed some of these moments. So again, this would be a huge spoiler warning for anyone who is not a manga reader, so please go ahead. We advise you skip to the end or skip to the next episode. And
come back when the season's over.
Yeah, definitely come back when the season's over, because it's only foreshadowing this season, I believe.
Yeah. But with that being said, and with that out of the way, there was a lot of foreshadowing for the rest of this season in this OP. So what kind of caught your eye the most about this? Because there were a lot of different moments that were shown that we can definitely talk about.
Oh gosh. Well, I'll harken back to like my favorite moment that we talked about. We have Muzan versus Ubayashiki, which is like super foreshadowed. They're like on the same level here, but Muzan obviously has a massive advantage, just as all demons do in the show. We've heard Tanjiro deliver like the famous lines of like, you guys are cowards. Rengoku was the real winner because you have the advantage.
Yeah.
Come fight him in the sun. And obviously they can't, but
they're not gonna just do that because
But the point is that like demons can regenerate, they have this overwhelming advantage, and Muzan would be at the top of that hierarchy, especially against somebody who is frail and sick and dying, as we've seen Ubayashiki is in this episode. Like, who knows how much longer he's gonna make it, but which one of them is smarter? And that's also like kind of a tough question, because there's no doubting that Muzan, like, while kind of simple in his goals, is incredibly intelligent and has had literally centuries to build upon that knowledge. Ubayashiki is human and frail, but is also highly intelligent, so like, what's he gonna do? We know. Is that gonna happen this season? I feel like it might be where it ends. That's my thought. I'm not sure.
Almost this entire thing was foreshadowing, honestly. Yeah. I didn't want to say it earlier because I didn't want anime onlys to be like, oh, you know. I think, like, honestly, whether it's foreshadowing just bits in the season, like Sanemi and Genya, like, that's just straight up a scene that's gonna happen. They're going to see each other in the hallway, and we all know where that's gonna go. It's when I will become Sanemi's #1 hater for a brief moment, when I'm, I think, the one who likes him the most between the three of us. Obviously, for me, the thing that caught my eye the most, that actually had me gasp the first time I saw it, was the final moment in it, where we see Tanjiro legitimately trying to decapitate Muzan.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's telling us that that's how far they're gonna go. I have my own predictions of where this season is gonna end, and I think that the season finale is going to be probably gonna go down as one of the best Demon Slayer episodes so far. I think Ufotable has something up their sleeve for that episode, and I think that this arc, no matter what, is going to end on a huge cliffhanger. But I think that this OP is showing that we're going to see probably the very, very beginnings of Infinity Castle. And since the people listening should be people who are either manga readers or don't care about spoilers, I'll just throw it out there now. I think with that foreshadowing, I'm predicting that this season is going to end with everyone starting to fall into the Infinity Castle, and Tanjiro says something along the lines of, like, Muzan, I'm gonna, like, kill you tonight. And then Muzan says, like, do it if you can, Tanjiro Kamado. And that's, like, the end of a chapter. And I don't see it ending any other place at that point, because I think that's just such a great place to end it. That's going to make all the anime onlys reaching for the manga, first of all. And it's going to build up the hype. But that foreshadowing of just Tanjiro going after Muzan, this is what we've been working towards for this entire show, outside of Nezuko being turned into a human, which we're already getting closer to at this point. So that was really what caught my eye the most, but the entire thing is just foreshadowing after foreshadowing.
There's a lot there. I would be, like, this is obviously me dreaming, because, like, we know it's going to be 8 episodes, and first off, like, best birthday gift ever, that the last episode is going to come after, like, a day after my birthday. Yay. So, like, thanks, Ufotable. I know you were thinking of me when you did that.
100%.
So it was all about moi. But no, I mean, like, a real, like, I feel like I really want it to be true that they're just gonna give us, like, 1 episode of Infinity Castle. They're just gonna give us, like, a little bit of a snippet, just, like, something into it. I hope that we, like, obviously the explosion between Muzan and Ubayashiki is gonna be wild, and that's gonna blow some people out of the water. I think that last episode, Hannah said this a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna bring it back up. I think she said it off camera, but the last episode is probably just going to be the talk between Muzan and Ubayashiki, and I agree with that once she said that, because that is a very, like, interesting scene that's going to happen. And, like, Emily was talking about how they're on a parallel level, or on this, not the parallel, they're on the same plane. It's going to be an episode that's kind of like a mind blower. I think it's going to be a real episode that's going to cause a lot of people to think about, like, what it means to be human, what it means to be a demon, and a lot of things like that. So I really am excited for that portion of the season. Obviously, that's a very long time away, and there's a lot of in between that I should enjoy as well. Of course, I like to rush to my favorite part.
I mean, I kind of did that last season. I spent the entire season just getting prepped for the final, knowing what was going to happen, and it's kind of the same here too. I think the whole season's going to be great, but I think the season finale of this, it might go down in history more than the season finale of Swordsmith Village, which is saying a lot because that was an intense episode.
Yeah.
Fair. And there are a lot of parallels between Muzan and Ubuyashiki, and I think that was the most poignant part of the OP was them back to back with all the swords, with Muzan's like shifting because we saw pretty much all of his forms that he's had throughout the 1,000 years that we've seen him, and then we had Ubuyashiki, and there's a lot of parallels between the two of them. You said you didn't understand the snake, so there is, during that conversation, Ubuyashiki kind of, I thought he mentioned a dragon, but it was some kind of like creature. And essentially he was saying that Muzan like stepped on its tail enough times and to awaken, and the head of this creature is the Hashira and Tanjiro and Kanao and like our Kamaboko squad of this generation. He stepped on it just enough times, and it really was the Komodos that kind of set this all into motion to make them decide that they're ready to take him on. Or, like, either Muzan was saying it, like, he's like, man, I stepped on this creature too many times and then they're coming after me, or Kaguya said it to him. So I think that's, like, what the foreshadowing is there, is, like, referring to the creature that the Demon Slayer core is.
Yeah, I was like, why the F is Obanai's snake here the entire time? I was like, I knew he got, like, hit by a snake demon, but, like, still. Fuck.
He's like, don't mind me. Just pop it in.
Not me about to make a Haikyuu reference when you said don't mind me.
Don't mind! Ah, yes! Let's go. That's so good.
Oh.
Alright, well, in vain of keeping this a shorter episode so we can all go see the mothers in our family, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode of the Hashira Half Hour. If you want to see more, please go ahead and visit us on Spotify. We are on YouTube. We are on TikTok at Hashira Half Hour, and Instagram at the same @ On X, we are at Hashira Half. So please go ahead and find us. Definitely leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see more of. Hit the subscribe button, or on Spotify, if you could give us a review, that'll help other people find us as well. But with that being said, umai!
Umai!
Umai! It's been so long!